Today, we're going to go over how you can automate recurring tasks using Microsoft Excel's built-in Power Query Editor. So here's an example that I've touched on in some other videos. Let's say that I have a list of tasks that need to be completed. These are the tasks out here in column A. This is raw data that I just downloaded from a source system. This is the status of that task. Who does it sit with? The preparer, the reviewer, or the second reviewer? And then these other columns list out those parties. Now in this column, I've added a formula. It's based off of the ifs formula. You could also use a nested if formula to identify whose queue it's currently in. So in this case, it's with preparer, and the preparer is Mike. In this case, it's with reviewer 2, and reviewer 2 is Jane. So it's just pulling out the person that it's actually sitting with. I also have an email list that I'm maintaining in a table here. For each one of those folks, I've got their email listed, and then I summarized it out here, all formula driven. I used a unique formula to get the responsible parties, a count if to count how many tasks they currently have in their queue, and then transpose filter, and then I manipulated it to get a list of those tasks. And then I brought in their emails and I concatenated that, and I could copy this into the to line of an email and send them this information so that they had it. Now, every time I want to update that, I'll have to go through, let's say there's more rows, less rows, a new person pops in. This is good. It's pretty automated. It's formula driven, but as more rows come in, it's not going to work so great. You can see I'm only going to F30 here on the raw data. So as we have more, those formulas will need updated. New approach using Power Query Editor. So we'll copy this raw data, not the responsible party, just the true raw data. We'll paste it into a blank workbook. And I'm just doing that, but let's just say you've got a system and you can schedule a job to run and extract this information for you at 4 a.m. every morning. You want to save it with a generic name because you're going to go back to this same file name every time in another file. So I would call it something very generic like tasks outstanding. So we'll go ahead, close that, close the old file. We'll open a new workbook. We'll go to data, get data from file, from Excel workbook. We'll navigate to where we are saving that raw data with that generic name because we're going to want to continually go back to this file. Like I said, set it up to run and post here at 4 a.m. every morning. So we'll navigate to that file. It'll open up the navigator screen. We'll select sheet 1 and transform data. So we'll get rid of this change type. You can see the first thing that happens is it doesn't recognize that account status prepare are our headers here. So we'll go to transform and we'll say use first row as headers. So now we've actually got our headers the way we want to. The first thing to replicate is that we used to have this responsible party out here, and we did that with ifs formulas. So what we'll do is we'll add a column, a conditional column. So we'll call it responsible party, just like we did in the Excel file. We'll say if status equals with preparer, then give me the column preparer. We'll add another clause. We'll say else if status equals with reviewer 1, then give me the column reviewer 1. We'll add a third clause. We'll say else if status equals with reviewer 2, and give me the column reviewer 2. And now we'll have a default and we'll say add status to logic in conditional column in Power Query Editor. And so that way, if there's ever a new status like with reviewer 3 or rejected or something like that, we will know that, hey, we need to come in here and figure out if it says rejected, does that mean it's back with prepare? We'll just need to figure that out if anything ever changes. So that'll be our alert to come back into Power Query Editor and update this conditional column. So now you can see with reviewer 2 here. So Jane is reviewer 2, it spit out Jane. With prepare Werner, it spit out Werner. So responsible party is looking good. The other thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to create another table or another file so we'll have to get out of this real quick. So we'll say close and load, and that will load what we've got so far. And so this is the sheet that we've been working on, the new sheet. So you can see we've got this table, just as expected. It's got the responsible party. So I opened up the old approach. I need to grab the email list, and I need to save that off as another file that I can pull in to this Power Query. So save it in the same location as where I'm saving the tasks outstanding, and I'll just call it email lookup. Get right out of email lookup, I'll get out of the old approach. So this is the query that we've been working on, the file that we've been working on. I'll go to data, drop down get data. I'll go down here to launch Power Query Editor. And that'll return me to that conditional column that I just added. I'll expand the queries pane on the left. I'll right click. I'll say new query from a file from an Excel workbook. Right there is that email lookup I just dropped in. And so the old method here was that we did a lookup to bring in the email. So we'll give these better names. We'll call this tasks, and we'll call this emails. And so I need to find a way to, in this tasks, I want it to tell me, okay, it's Mike, and Mike's email is 123@hotmail.com. So the way that I do that is I go to the Home tab to merge queries. I have to be on the table that I want to bring the additional field into. So I want to bring the email into the tasks field query. So I start on the task query, hit the merge button, and then it needs to know what is going to match. So responsible party here, I'm going to match to the emails table. You can see it didn't promote the headers again, so let me go back and promote those headers. We get rid of this change type, and then we will use the first row's headers. So we promoted the first row's headers. We'll come back to tasks, go back to home, merge the queries. So responsible party is what's going to match. What's it going to match to? The emails table, responsible party. and we're going to keep it at a left outer join, and it's going to tell you what's the status. And this is saying, hey, 29 of 29, everything's a match. So great. We'll hit OK. It'll bring in this emails column as a table, because it's going to bring in, if you click, it's going to bring in the entire content of that table that matches to Mike. But all I want is the email. I already know it's Mike. So this button up here is called the expand button in the top right corner of the column that you merged. So click the expand button and then uncheck responsible party, because that'll just duplicate the name, and then uncheck use original column name as prefix. All we want to do is bring in the email. Hit OK. That tells me email Mike at excelwithlee.com. So now we've got the email. We really just want to give them that summarized view and say, hey, Mike, and I want the email. This is how many outstanding tasks you have. So on the transform tab, there's a group by. So we've selected the two columns we wanted to group by, and I just held down the control key to select multiple columns at once. So it says, hey, we're going to group by responsible party and email. And I just want to count of the rows. I just want to know how many tasks do they have outstanding. And so Mike has 2, Jane has Tom, etc. You can then order this to have it, most outstanding, least outstanding. But typically, we'll see that we order this just alphabetically so that people can easily go in and pick out, hey, I'm Raul, I have 3. That's it. We will close and load, and then we'll see that this email is going to get returned, and we don't want the email to get returned. So on this queries and connections, which should pop up straight away, but if it doesn't, data tab, this queries and connections right here button, we'll toggle that on and off. Right click the query that you don't want to create a sheet for, select the load to button, and say only create a connection. Okay. Give you a little possible data loss. That's fine. Just hit OK. It goes away. You can now delete this tab, and then you can call this tab tasks. And so we've got our summarized list. If you want to just get that email list, you can do cat, take this list, add a semicolon in between it, and it'll give you something that you can just copy and paste into the to line of your email. So just to show you the power of this, that's how you would do it. I'll save this out in the same spot as I've been saving those other files. So I'll call it S outstanding automated query output. And the power and the beauty of this is that, let's just say, when I go and I run this tomorrow, South Africa treasury stock, South Africa 401k match, South Africa FSA match, South Africa security deposits, whatever the case may be. And they're all new, so they're with the prepare. I just added these ones. There were 29 outstanding. We've got 4 more, so there should be 33. I'll just save this file, close it. You can see I've got 29. All I have to do is come in here, refresh all. I've got 33. So that's the beauty of Power Query Editor.